We've all been in the last couple of years in the mode of AI is coming, let's test things, let's see what works. And we were all playing with a lot of different toys, which was fun, but now we need to show the money.
Welcome, Ecom Logistics Nation. We are live at Manifest 2026 and joined by Anna today. Anna, AI is everywhere today, and so is AI fatigue. I'm sure the audience feels this as well. This conversation is about taking that hype, taking a lot of the pitches that we end up hearing day in and day out, and truly translating that into operational impact. You are a master at that. You've built an incredible machine at PepsiCo. Maybe I'll have you give our audience a little bit of a background on yourself and your role before we jump into the conversation. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me in this beautiful room. My name is Anna, and I lead PepsiCo Labs, and my team sits right in the middle between the different operation kind of units and breakthrough technology. And what we do is help business teams, so real kind of boots on the ground teams, solve some of their most challenging problems. We help them frame the problem. We help them find solutions from outside of the company. We help them test to see if it works and then scale, which is something that many teams who are busy with deploying and doing their day-to-day do not really have time for, which is a very interesting and exciting area to be in, especially now with AI and physical AI and automation and a lot of other things that I'm sure we're going to touch soon.
Absolutely. When you walked the floor this year, what are some things that seemed interesting to you, surprising to you? I think you sit in a position where you get pitched day in and day out. I'm sure it's thousands per year. Maybe you have a better mental model than most of us on how do you see through what's real and what's not. Can you maybe share a little bit about how do you process that and if there's anything that you want to highlight as well?
So I think for Manifest this year, what was interesting actually is not the solutions, it's some of the conversations that I had. And a lot of them where the trend was, how do we move from testing to production to full deployment? And I think we've all been in the last couple of years in the mode of AI is coming, let's test things, let's see what works. And we were all playing with a lot of different toys, which was fun, but now we need to show the money. So how do we move this from, okay, we did an isolated sandbox pilot, now we need to take this across a large-scale organization thing. For a big company like PepsiCo, for this to move the needle, it has to be in many, many buildings. Yeah. And the challenge is not in doing one great pilot with incredible results. It's about replicating that at cost, fast, across 100 different buildings.
Yeah. And then you get that scale effect. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think, and even for us, we talked digital twin in the past, but digital twin has been a very kind of a key priority. It's been a very big uplift because we had to create our own tech stack. There's no out-of-the-box solution that you can just go and implement. And we spent the last 2 years in, number one, proving the technology works. Number two, identifying the tech stack, who are the relevant ecosystem partners. And we have multiple partners supporting us. Then proving this can actually work. So building out the ROI, testing capabilities in the digital environment, bringing them to a real environment, building the business case and showing to the company that, yes, we can drive 20% throughput increase, we can drive 15% CapEx reduction. And that was 2 years of work. Yeah. Now, the data is there, the confidence is there, we can scale.
Maybe if you can touch on the announcement that was made at CES as well. I think what I love about the work that you've done and you've put in over the last few years is how you're thinking about scaling it. So I won't take too much of your thunder away. Maybe if you can talk a little bit about the partnership and the announcement.
So the partnership that we've announced with both NVIDIA and Siemens is actually instrumental to that point, to scale. Everything we've done in one building. It started with almost a duct tape kind of version, and then you grow from one pick station to a bigger use case, and then to a building, and then a bigger building, which is all great. It proves you the capabilities there, the potential is there. Number one, does the tech even work? If I put cameras, can they capture the right data? How do I build my virtual environment? You need to scan the building. You need to add models. You need to add different layers just to see if it works, if it all plays together. Then proving out that you can actually deliver value. So what are the right use cases to go after? And that was a whole big discovery process of, what am I trying to influence? What decisions am I trying to make using those new insights, newly generated insights? Then is there money there? If the model tells me one thing and I go and I implement it in the real world, does it even work? And that was all done in pilot mode. So it's all a safe environment. You can make mistakes. But at some point, you need to go back and scale. And that is where we need partners. That's where Siemens and NVIDIA are critical. So we are operating on Omniverse, which is the NVIDIA platform, and NVIDIA has been a great partner. We've been learning this process together. We are the first in our industry to do it at that scale. We couldn't really learn from anybody else. We had to do it ourselves. And Siemens comes in because they are the scale-up partner. So they have the ability to take this. My small innovation team cannot do this anymore, right? So we're setting up a center of excellence to partner with Siemens and now take this across dozens of buildings.
That's amazing. And what does digital twin mean to you? Because there is a lot of, if you talk to a lot of people, they're like, well, what's the purpose of it? It's like the graphical side of things, right? Like I can see my building in the virtual environment. But like when you think about it, that value side equation, what is it that you prove value out of from a digital twin? Is it about designing new things, newer facilities, newer buildings, or is it about operational capability and throughput improvements and other things of that nature? I'm curious as to what it means for you.
So actually it's both. If you start with an engineering twin, which is more for design purposes, we build a lot of new buildings. They're all very expensive. We don't know a lot of things before they actually become operational. Here, you can simulate and debug everything before you've invested your first CapEx dollar, which is critical.
Yep.
Right? Because we all know in reality, you build a building, you expect a specific throughput, you get much less,
Yep.
and you start debugging and throwing more money at the problem and adding more automation, and then you get some improvement, but you never get it right the first time.
Yep.
With digital twin, and that is kind of the engineering version, so it is still not connected, it's not operational yet. You can run those processes. So the biggest value driver here is CapEx reduction. And we've proven with a CapEx upgrade project, we wanted to add a conveyor belt, we got 10 to 15% reduction.
Wow.
When you talk about millions and the cost of building each of those buildings, it's a whole lot of money.
It's massive.
And that's also, it's not just the CapEx dollars, it's also being up much faster because it takes 18 months to design a building, it takes about 18 months to build the building, and then 6 more months to debug it and get it to where you want it to be so it's ready. All of this can be now much shorter. There's dollars in the actual CapEx investment and then in the uptime.
It's amazing. And how about the run state side of things? So, okay, the building's up and running, you have the simulation. Where does it actually have the impact? I'm curious.
Things change, reality happens. You might have one pick station down, and now you need to change the way everything flows, still deliver the throughput, but with one pick station down or with any change that can happen. And today we would be reactive. We would probably work on a few scenarios, but that will be things that are coming from the experts or the knowledge. If I'm able to take it and simulate, if I need to increase my pick station from 4 to 6 and see what happens and how does that influence my flow. If I have a station down, what happens? You can simulate everything in the virtual environment because it is all connected. It's not just a it's not just a 3D model.
Yep.
Everything is connected. It's connected to my warehouse management systems, my execution systems, to my dock doors. Anything that flows, my people, my AGVs, my inventory, my ASRSs, you name it. So when I turn the lights on, it changes things in the digital environment as well. If I change one thing, it changes everything upstream and downstream, depending on the change that we're making. So I think we were able to demonstrate 20% throughput increase in a pick rate. Because we were able to identify a specific problem in a pick station that required a change, an adjustment.
Amazing. That's amazing.
So 20% is a number.
It's material impact,
Yeah.
especially when at scale.
And one last thing on that front is, if you think about, a lot of people think about digital twins, and you spoke about Omniverse, which is the OpenUSD framework that they have from NVIDIA. There is the visual side of it. But if you think about all the underlying data and the mechanism of actually, that's not the visual side. That's the hard part of the digital twin. So would that be accurate? Like, there is the high fidelity, cool stuff you can show people. That's different. But the real information is what's underlying to that digital twin.
The visual is needed, number one, to bring it to life, because ones and zeros are really hard to explain, and we kind of show this to people. Another great use case for visual was when we wanted to install a conveyor belt, we let the operator use it. So he put on goggles and he was able to say, oh, it should actually be higher or lower. And we were able to adjust the design, which makes it safer and more agronomically, a better agronomical fit. But you're right, you don't need it.
Yeah.
You don't need it to get the throughput. You can use it all in the coding language. You don't need the visualization.
Exactly.
One of the things that I really admire about you, Anna, is your ability to take a lot of different startups that are out there, a lot of different technologies that are out there. You'll have to correct me on the stat, but I had read there's PepsiCo Labs has piloted over 200 different startups and scaled over 30 of them. What is your mental model first on that selection, and how do you get yourself out of the analysis paralysis on making that happen? Because that requires an intense amount of work. I empathize because I come from that innovation background and I know what goes into, especially in an enterprise environment, to make something like that happen.
And you're right. And that is where the PepsiCo Labs model comes in. And it took us 2 years to build it, a lot of trial and error and testing it in an enterprise environment and then going back and finding where the bottlenecks are. But it all starts, it's very kind of 4 simple steps. Number 1, what is the use case? What is the problem? So we are problem back. We're not technology forward. It's not about, oh, I have this cool model, cool vision, technology, cool digital twin. What do I do with digital twin? It starts with speaking to the experts and understanding from their perspective what needs to be fixed, what needs to be improved. Then you break this into specific use cases. You look at the technology. What is the tech stack that is required to build this? How will this integrate with the rest of our ecosystem of solutions? Once you know that, it makes it very clear what you're looking for. What is your approach? You can approach a problem in different ways, right? So we try to identify beforehand, what are we looking for? Then when you scout, basically it's just looking objectively at anything that applies to the same criteria that you've defined. And that's kind of the second step. So it starts with identify the problem, find the solution, scout for the solutions, run pilots quickly. And that is, we've created a rapid pilot approach. So basically we cut through the corporate red tape very quickly. Some of the challenges are, they might seem simple, but in big companies, they take a lot of time. Signing an NDA. If I need to sign 10 NDAs, that can be paralyzing. If I need to pay 10 different vendors, so I need to set up 10 different new vendors on my vendor system, that can be a very, if I need to run 10 of them on my security. So this can create a lot of bottlenecks, number one. Number 2, it's not something that the operators on the ground know how to do. They've never. So we've created a rapid pilot approach, and we're kind of see us as with the conductors, with all the different corporate functions that are relevant, from legal and procurement and cybersecurity and IT, etc. And we've created simplified processes for all of them that are relevant for the pilot, because the risk of a pilot is low. We're not integrating them yet.
And it's more isolated, right? Like you're basically keeping it with. That's an amazing idea. I wish more companies did that, because those things that you just said are a huge problem for innovation in most organizations. It's like pilots that, great, operator loves it, let's bring it in, and it's now stuck in legal and security for the longest time. And it's like, dude, we're just trying to do a pilot at this point. Like, we don't need to go through the motions. So kudos to you guys to actually be thinking about it that way.
We learned this by doing. I wanted to do my first pilot. I'm like, okay, great. How do I pay them? And then go figure out, how do you even get a vendor on the system? Who knows? I called someone. I sent an email. Nobody responds. You send an NDA to a legal black hole to a system, and then you wait for somebody to come back with red lines, and then you send it back. But there are ways to work around it. If you get a standard NDA template that we align with legal, if everybody's okay and we're not changing it, then it goes.
This is what you got to sign for the pilot. You want to scale up, we might have a different NDA and you can redline, but for pilot, here's my paper, you can sign this. Or we can't do the pilot.
Exactly. Or a standard pilot agreement. Right? I don't need a full-blown MSA for a pilot that runs a couple of months. And same for security. If I'm sending an Excel with historical non-confidential data, then maybe a security assessment is not necessary. So that was step number 3. How do you run through quick pilots? A critical part of running those pilots is knowing what are the KPIs when you go in. So that kind of ties to step 1. But what is in scope, what's not in scope? Because you want to make sure, number 1, it's clear to everybody what we're measuring, what they're measuring. And number 2, we're not trying to boil the ocean. This is a quick pilot. Do I just want to see if the technology works? If it needs to capture something, does it capture it? Am I trying to capture specific KPIs at this point? But be very clear so nobody is disappointed at the end. It's an objective decision at the end whether this was a success or no. You need something you can measure easily. And then if it works, the last 4th step is scale, which is sometimes much harder in the companies than taking it from a proven pilot to a full-blown success. That takes longer, and that involves the full kind of process. This is where you need to negotiate. This is where procurement comes in with their agreements and legal and security. But that is how you drive the impact. But you want to run through 1, 2, and 3 very quickly, and then 4 is going into production.
Amazing.
I love the transparency and the clarity around the process as well, because having seen what startups go through, especially your startup, you get an opportunity to pilot with PepsiCo. It could be a life-changing thing for them. So making sure that you have the kind of process that you've set in place makes it easy for them to also make sure that they deliver, or else they know why they did not fit the criteria for graduation, which becomes a great learning opportunity for them as well. So I think that's a great setup that you've done. I want to maybe talk a little bit about, what does it take as a team? What is the culture that you've had to kind of build and evolve in a big organization, in an enterprise organization, to bring that innovation to life? Because there's a lot that goes into just keeping the lights on, but innovation is absolutely mandatory as well in today's day and age. So how do you balance that, and how do you cultivate a culture for innovation?
I think if I look at it from our small PepsiCo Labs team, well, I'll answer in two aspects. Our small labs team, and then PepsiCo is an enterprise.
Yep.
From our small team, we hire people who know our business very well. We have a very complex operation, so learning how to disrupt it is already enough.
Yeah.
Bringing somebody from outside who needs to learn the operations and disrupt it will be much harder. Everybody on our team has a practical operating experience. People who spent 10 years on the manufacturing line, 5 years in warehouses. So they know the problems, they know the processes, they have the network, because that matters so much. They know the language. They can speak to a mechanic in a language that will be the same level of expertise. And that is critical. We allow a lot of freedom. So you hire people who are very talented. You just need to let them thrive, right? Make mistakes. I don't have the answers.
Yeah.
A lot of it is being able to make mistakes as long as you learn from them and capture it. By design, we want 50% of our pilots to fail. Because if we did not fail, it means we're too conservative. Maybe we did not kill something on time, which is another thing that big companies struggle with. Things can drag on forever because nobody will pull the plug, because that means it's a failure. We celebrate failures. And if we need to kill it, let's kill it fast. That's okay. It's okay to fail or admit that something doesn't work for whatever reason. Just do it fast and don't drag it for years. That's kind of from our team's perspective. From a big organizational perspective, we are the ones showing our executive what's around the corner. And that starts with educating them about the latest technologies, taking them to immersions, to Silicon Valley, other tech ecosystems, so they can meet the experts, so they can think about have discussions that they're not having in their day-to-day, because a lot of their day-to-day is Horizon 1, it's execution. It's my next, 12 months, maybe 18 months.
Yeah.
Speaking to VCs, speaking to researchers, speaking to the most breakthrough entrepreneurs helps them see what's around the corner. Taking them to conferences like Manifest, where we are now, a lot of it is taking them outside of the office, holding their hand, and a fully curated experience, meeting those partners that are relevant for them. And we know they're relevant for them because we partner with them so I am not just showing them shiny toys, I'm showing them things that are relevant to what they're looking for. And that is also a critical role. And you see the difference. We've been, PepsiCo Labs is now almost a decade old. Initially, we were kind of, the company didn't really know what to do with us. But now we are invited to speak about our approach. We're invited to speak about what we see in any leadership event.
Yeah.
Because everybody understands now the importance of innovation. Everybody sees the outside ecosystem is moving very fast. So I think the urgency is there, and the company is very open to us kind of walking them through the different steps.
When you said, the strategy is to have operators that have the experience is what you kind of bring in, there is this other personality trait you got to look for as well, I would assume, which is the curiosity side of things. Like, what's real, what's not, but I also have to constantly keep looking for all the new things that are happening. Who are these new players? Is that a mix you kind of look for?
Yes, I think it is people who are confident or comfortable with ambiguity. And every time somebody comes in, I'm like, I don't have a job description for you. I know what you're going to work on, but honestly, we change so fast because the type of work we're working on is different. Every project is slightly different. We move from hardware to software to partnerships with big companies and small companies. So you need to be comfortable with changing, moving fast, not getting a very scripted role. You'll need to build your own role, which is beautiful. I think many people who join us are the ones who are excited about the ability to build their own role and not necessarily follow something. Nobody else does this. Each of us is unique. I come from finance. So many roles in finance, there are 100 different people doing the same thing at the same time. We are the opposite of that.
Love it.
I think something that you touched on, which is about celebrating failure. People talk about this all the time. that is not an easy thing to do. And the fact that you design your pilot so you are pushing boundaries and making sure that you don't get 100% success rate, or else you're not trying hard enough. What does that look like in practice? How do you celebrate failures? How do you make teams and people and partners comfortable with the fact that, hey, we are going to do something really meaningful and it's going to be hard, and having that transparency along the way as well? Because I think this is something that all of us can learn more about. It's part and parcel of the innovation process, but I would say one of the hardest things to actually execute on.
It's funny because a few years ago, I think it was 7 or 8 years ago, we actually had a failure award. It was year end and everybody was
that's
celebrating, the big
amazing.
stuff. We added like the best failure award and we gave it to the person who
I'm
was.
taking notes on this one because that sounds
It was,
amazing.
and everybody, they took it very well. I think it is, we put it out there. When we have a scorecard, so it has, this is succeeded, green, this is on track. And then at the bottom, we have the reds as well. So we grade it out, but it's there. And we show the full impact. We're not trying to hide it. And failure doesn't always mean you did something wrong. Failure can happen because you realize the business value is not there. You tested it and you couldn't prove the ROI. So is that a failure? I mean, you did not scale, but you tried it and you realized that this approach is not working. You need a different approach. Or maybe the technology is not there. Many times we tried something and we realized we can't integrate it in the ecosystem. The technology is not mature enough. Our ecosystem maybe is not compatible enough. That's not a failure.
It's that strategy of fail fast, fail forward, right? Like, I think it's an Amazon principle, if I'm not mistaken. It's like, fail fast, realize, well, I failed and this is not going to work, and just back out. Or if you're going to commit, then continue failing forward until you succeed, right? You got to pick your path from that.
Exactly. Failure is not negative. It does not mean we did something wrong. We did everything right, but sometimes the business value is not there. The tech maturity is not there. We've had multiple solutions that we've tested years ago and the organization wasn't ready. And then 2 years after they came back and they actually succeeded. So it happened multiple times.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just a question of timing. So would you call the first one failure and the second? Not necessarily, because we did the test. We knew exactly what to look for, and a partner or the tech company kind of matured and caught up, or we matured and were able to now accept it in. So it's not, I don't see it as a failure.
Amazing.
But just to wrap up, if you can share some words of wisdom with our listeners, mostly from logistics and supply chain ops and technology backgrounds that are listening today, what advice would you give them in terms of how they can continue to innovate and keep that curiosity alive and keep striving for more? Because again, this is a very difficult space. We're constantly trying to do more and more and more with a lot less. Not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. So I think innovation many times is challenged by being a bit fluff and not tangible.
Yeah.
Wherever you are on the journey, make sure you're able to capture and demonstrate the value and communicate it. Up, down, to the sides, it doesn't matter. Your team knows what you've delivered, your leadership knows what you've delivered, but you are talking in numbers. We run an exercise every year to calculate how much value we've delivered. So if there's a project we've handed over, what was the 5-year out, how much the company is expecting to deliver from that project, and then what's in the pipeline. And it is done not by my team, it's done by finance, so it's all very objective, validated, etc. We might get a range, but it doesn't matter. The numbers are there. And it's very important to communicate this, number one, to your own team, so they know what they do matters. We're not in a world of science projects or playing with toys, but also to the leadership.
It is fun to play with some shiny science project toys. Like,
That's true.
That's on my free time, yes.
But maybe you dedicate, if you're, maybe you dedicate 10% or 15% or 20% of your time. We also have, every time we bring in leaders, 80% of what they will see is exactly what they've asked for. 20% will be pushing their boundaries.
Amazing.
Right? Just to show them, this is what you didn't even know you should ask for. Right? And that's one of the questions I ask when I speak to VCs, or like, here's what I'm looking for, and then tell me what's not on the list and should be on the list. Are you surprised that something's missing? So I think being very quantifiable and focused on value is number one. Not being afraid to fail. So we spoke about failures, but that kind of pushing the boundaries. And I think the last advice would be move to production. I think don't just test. Make sure you're moving to production. Productize it. I see so many teams just playing with things. They know the value is there, but they're unable to scale. And that kills the credibility.
Yeah. Stuck in the pilot purgatory, as you like to call it.
Yes. Move to production, commit.
Productize
Commit.
what works. It's a challenge across the industry, the amount of stuff that you see. Omniverse as an example, what you brought up, right? Like if you don't have that pipeline, that productization of being able to do it over and over, and every time you got to start from scratch, well, that's a lot of effort and a lot of dollars to do it that way.
Yeah.
Rather think about it, well, what does scale in production? Love it.
Anna, thank you so much for joining us today. I would encourage all of the listeners today to also follow Anna on LinkedIn, where she shares a lot of great advice and talks openly about how she thinks about innovation and actually making innovation come to life. Thank you again for joining us today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for having me.